Hey guys, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam. I am making this video from Guatemala, where I'll be in the next 3 weeks. And I wanted to explore the topic of shame today as, or rather from the angle of how disempowering shame is, and how it opens us up for abusive situations, and how it is indeed unprocessed areas of shame that are leveraged against us when we become victims of abuse. And you could almost say that a predatory, narcissistic type of person is, in fact, probing for areas in which we are not full of ourselves. And by full of ourselves, I don't mean being full of yourself in the self-obsessed, self-absorbed, and arrogant kind of way, but rather that your awareness has fully filled your entire being. There are no empty areas, no blind spots. And there are, most importantly, no areas which are no-go areas, right? For areas that we fear to experience about ourselves. So if those areas are available and we come across someone who's predatory, it'll become, through a few probes and tests and soccer tests, it'll become very quickly apparent that there are areas in which they can poke or take action which are detrimental to our well-being, which are going against what we want for ourselves, but which we are at the same time unable to tackle. And we are unable to tackle because we become paralyzed with emotional, you could say, a kind of freeze response. It's almost like we are presented with an impossible choice and we just allow things to happen when we don't really want to. I was experiencing some of this a few weeks back in an exchange with someone who brought up elements of my personality that are clearly still beholden to shame. And I noticed that I was unable to tackle the situation, which felt really terrible because it's almost like you're trapped in your own body at that point. You are completely at the mercy of very strong survival circuitry that takes over, because it's trying to protect you, but it is in essence making you freeze in the face of something that shouldn't be happening. And it's incredibly frustrating. It feels really terrible, as a matter of fact. So you know that what's happening is not good for you, but you look for the correct way to respond, and it just doesn't seem to be available to you. And this is really no surprise, right? So if you have experienced this sort of thing, these are excellent opportunities to then do the work of introspection and start to investigate what it feels like to not feel capable of the right response and feeling weak in the face of the attack or the abuse or the circumstance. How do we relate to this? Well, we need to know what we're looking for. And chances are this is a feeling that someone who has suffered from shame or experienced shame in certain areas of their lives will be very familiar with. It feels like being small. It feels like being weak. It feels like you are naked or unprotected to whatever is incoming, right? Whatever is being thrown at your direction, it feels like it can hit your core without you being able and move you without you being able to really have any filters or decisions about it. Um, but not in a good way. In other words, you're not connecting with it in a way that is wholesome and intimate, but rather it feels invasive. It feels like you have a certain kind of empty or deflated, flaccid, um, um, miasmic type of sense of I can't do anything about this. I am powerless in the face of this. So it's a very dislikable feeling, as a matter of fact. I in fact cannot think of an uglier feeling that I don't know how to face this, whatever this may be. And so, as usual, the way to deal with this is to face that discomfort. And you don't need to do it while you're having interactions that you find difficult. You can do it in your own time, but you do need to cultivate the ability to elicit that discomfort and become intimately familiar with it. It is not possible to have a powerful and calibrated response in an area of your life about which you feel shame. And it could be any area of life. And chances are that if that is the case, then your response is usually going to be a toxic yang or a toxic aggressive response, or a toxic yin or a toxic passive response. Maybe you will respond in a way that is you will fawn, right? Or you'll start to fantasize about how it's not so bad or something along those lines, or maybe you'll scream, or maybe you'll get physical or really have an attack of rage. None of those are calibrated nor powerful responses, of course. They are the response of an animal that's scared and feels cornered. And they are very limited in their power and their capacity to actually make you feel like you know how to face things. And if you are dealing with someone who indeed is predatory, they will know that they have found a chink in the armor, and they will mercilessly attack it or leverage it, so you feel like your very own proclivities and your very own nature is being leveraged against you, which, as I said, is a really terrible feeling, because it's almost like you're a sock puppet or a marionette, right? So it's a very nasty situation to be in. So as it then turns out, great power comes from facing our shame, and it comes from being able to face that area of life on the one hand without anything to prove, but at the same time not recoiling away from it. So if we take, for example, money, right, say that you have some sort of shame about status, for example, or your capacity to generate wealth. Along comes a swindler offering you something that's too good to be true, and there is a chance that you'll fall for it because you have something to prove in that area, and you will recur to fantastical or fantasy making type of ideas to try to climb that financial ladder, only to find out that things were indeed too good to be true. Or the right kind of opportunity will come along, and you'll feel like you don't deserve it, right? So you see the yin and the yang playing out in different circumstances there, but in a toxic way. And you can't get a read on a situation when you cannot trust that the way you feel about it is free of shame. Yeah, shame it'll muddy the waters. It'll make your decisions murkier, your actions uncalibrated, because you can't get a read on what you really want and whether you feel you deserve it, and whether you're acting in a way that is true to yourself, win-win for everybody, and that really stands for who you are, right? So those things are not available when shame is there, and therefore the response, if it's good, it'll be, I would say, by luck. So you can only hope that you would have a good response when you have not dealt with shameful feelings. Unfortunately, facing shame is one of the more difficult things to do, and it's really unpleasant, right? It's facing parts of ourselves that we have endeavored throughout our entire lives to hide through a lot of tactical stuff, and through developing an entire personality that is there to, in essence, shield that in us which is most authentic and vulnerable and true. To shield it from these shameful feelings, right? So it takes time to get acquainted with one's shame. It takes time to develop the courage to feel it directly. And even if you do, it's not like it goes away immediately, right? So you need to learn how to live with these feelings and understand that they are part of your human makeup, and to simply learn how to feel them in full, connect with them, but also learn how to regulate your nervous system and not contract mentally, or rather not distract yourself mentally and not contract bodily when they come up. And well, that is the essence of today's video. It's something that has been a theme for me in the past couple of weeks, and it was inevitable for me to notice that if I want to feel powerful in a situation, I have no choice but to feel with the shameful feelings of not feeling powerful in that situation, or not feeling like I deserve to respond in an assertive way, or not feel like I have the right to drive things in a way that has a good outcome for me, but also for everybody around the table. So it's a very relatable thing for me in the past few days, and it has been a great opportunity to really work on these things. And as usual, it's a dance, right? With every with all the years that I've been doing this now, every time that a dance like this ensues, it's always challenging, right? There's never been a moment where I go like, oh yeah, super dark night feelings and existential dread. Oh yeah, I know this by heart. I know exactly what to do. No, it's almost like you tend to forget the basics. You need to remind yourself. You need to use the tools at your disposal, and at the same time not use them to pacify yourself or to avoid the whole thing, but really to simply accept your humanity in the process, to accept that this is the case right now, that you feel weak and ashamed and unable to face, and that you surrender that incapacity to face to nature, to reality, to whatever powers may be out there, whatever it is that made us pop out into existence in the first place, and allow that to carry what the finite mind cannot carry, because the finite mind is part and parcel of the shame mechanism, of course. So that is today's video. They tell me the traffic in Guatemala City has become completely dreadful, so I'm going to be carrying my little tripod here and just making a few of these clips in the coming days, I hope. And I hope that you enjoy this one, and thanks for sticking around this long if you did. I'll be back with more. Cheerio. Bye-bye.